It's his, like the root doesn't let anybody push him because it's to his job.
Do you mapid?
The root is mine.
Zog the Heilige Gemara. So yesterday we learned about the difference between Nekuvas Hakana, which is Ke'isr, but if it was a drusa, even a small hole, it's red and it's infected from the drusa, therefore it becomes treifa even with a small little hole. Today we're up to Yosef Rabbi Yitzchak Bar Shmuel Bar Marsa, which is the top of a Nun Dalet of an Aleph, where 4 lines from the top. Zok the Heilige Gemara. Yosef, I'm just going to clean my glasses so I can see out the window. Yosef Rabbi Yitzchak Bar Shmuel Bar Marsa Kamed Rab Nachman v'Yosef v'Ka'amr. He was saying the following halacha. Easy blot today. Jerusa she'amru, that Jerusa that we said, Tzricha b'dika keneged b'nei ma'ayim. Now remember, we had a machlokes yesterday, if even a Vade Jerusa you can be Baidik and then Kasher, or is it only by a Suffolk Jerusa? You actually raised yesterday, Rav gave one of the ways to make the B'dika, but that could be only maybe by the case where we had on Amud Aleph, wasn't the regular Suffolk Jerusa, it was the case where before the Gemara got into it, it was the case of the nail, maybe talking about the case of the nail, not by the cases where it was a suffix of an animal came in. So maybe that's what it's talking about. But otherwise,
different type of fake is.
I guess so, but I'm not sure. To Zok to Gemara. So he said, Jerusalem she'amru tzricha b'dika keneged b'nei ma'ayim. Neged b'nei ma'ayim is actually a suffix. What it means. Rashi learns. Oh, thank you so much. It means anything in the inner cavity, meaning including right away in the upper cavity before the diaphragm, which are the lungs and the heart, and then going through the diaphragm to where the liver and the kishkas are. All that requires b'dika. That's how Rashi learns. Rav Nachman Amar Halakim, I can promise you, Moiri Barav Mikapa V'Yad Atma. Oh, so I'm sorry. So connected b'nei ma'ayim only means the lower half from the diaphragm and down, where the rib cage opens up, where the belly is. And he said no, it's mikapa from the shoulder blades down to the hips, the entire cavity. My kappa, ilay makapa diyada, which is the shoulder blade. Hainu connected b'nei ma'ayim. Isn't that the same thing as connected b'nei ma'ayim? Oh, so here you see for carrot that the b'nei ma'ayim also includes that's in front of the diaphragm. It also includes the heart and the lungs. Ella, maybe what he meant was mikapa demoicha ad atma, which includes even the simonim. It has to be checked in the case of a treifa. When Rabbi Yosef went up to Eretz Yisrael, he found a discussion between Rabbi Yochanan and Rish Lakish. Drusa she'amru tzrika b'dika keneged b'nei ma'ayim, and not the simonim. Amar lahu alakim moir barav mikapa v'adatma. Rav said it's from the shoulder blades down to the hips. Amar lahu Rish Lakish, you're quoting this from Rav? Rish Lakish didn't know Rav because he lived, I guess, in Eretz Yisrael, so he didn't know Rav. So Manu Rav, I don't know who Rav is. I don't know who this Rav. You keep on quoting from this Rabbi Rav. I don't know who he is. Amar Rabbi Yochanan, you don't remember him? How could you not remember? He was a Talmud that was Mishamish Rabba Rabbi Yehuda Nossi v'Rab Chia. Well, I can promise, when Rebbe was there learning when Rav was there learning by Rebbe, he was such a high level student that he got a seat. He was able to sit. But Ani Shemati Ba'amida, Rabbi Yochanan said, I was still standing. Only the greatest of the Talmidim were able to get a seat. So he was like when the Muschoshev Talmidim. It's like when you're a freshie, you have the guy in third year rebellion. That's what I was feeling. Like the oldest guy, like the Muschoshev, the guys in Yeshiva. You don't remember him? Uman Gever who? You know who was by Shmuel's Chassanet? Chaps. Remember Chaps? Aaron Chapler? You know Chaps? He left already by 20 days. He was in third year rebellion in that game. So I said, Chaps, what are you doing here? He said, he didn't know who he was. So, Zok Gemara, Uman Gever who? And what type of grade is he? Gever Bekula. He's not Stam, a Chashav of Mensch, in that he's a big Talmud Chacham. Zok Rashi, Bekula, B'Torah Uba Chasidus. So he's not Stam a Gadol. B'Torah, he's a Gadol in Torah and in Chasidus. So he's a holy man. This is the great Rav. Miyad Pasach Klakish Ba'amar. Then Rish Lakish says, "Oh, now I remember." Bram Zocher Oisei Ishlatoiv. I can remember Rav Latoiv. Sh'amru Shmu Mipiv. They would say over in his name, Shmuta Ushchuta Kshera. What if you shachted an animal and you find that the gargaris, the windpipe, the trachea is ripped out, the kana, that's the word, is ripped out, it's going to be kosher. You know why? If it was shmuta before it was shechted, it wouldn't have been like a cut, a nice clean cut over there. So Rav was mekel, that was his beautiful kulos. How could I not remember the great Rav? Rabbi Yochanan Amar, Yovi v'Yaakov. You know what you need to do? And according to Rashi, although many Rishonim argue, but according to Rashi, Yovi v'Yaakov means after the animal dies, now you don't know if this gargaris was nishmat before or after. You cut the gargaris again, and you compare the cut. If it looks similar to the other cut, the cut that we want to attribute to the shechita, then you're in trouble, because that means that cut came after the shechita. And that means when it's shechted, it was a treva. I'm sorry. If it looks similar to it, that means that cut came after the shechita, means it's wasn't shechted properly. But if it looks different, then you can assume, the first cut was done before it was Nidal Evarev. Meaning the shechita would have occurred before Nidal Samanim. So therefore, Yovi v'Yaakov, that would help. That's how Rashi and our Rishonim learn, but our Rishonim will learn Yovi v'Yaakov means you bring another animal, and you take an animal that Nidal Samanim before and after, you check them both, and you compare, what does this look like? Zok to Gemara, Amar Reb Nachman, and there's two pshatim on what Reb Nachman is referring to. This kula that we have, either the kula of Rabbi Yochanan's bedika or Rav, who holds you don't even need a bedika, is hinged upon a condition. That's if the shochet can tell us that when he shechted, he didn't grab the simanim. Aval tavas b'simanim v'shachat evsher l'shmuta shetayas shchuta. It would have been possible for even if the simanim, even if the kana was disconnected, but if the sheikh held it in place when he shechted, then its cut would look like a regular cut. So it would undermine the bedika of Rabbi Yochanan, or it would undermine the heter of Rav, because it would look exactly like a regular shechted kana, when in fact it wasn't. The Mishnah at the end of Edel Treif says, Zeh klal, any animal that's not able to live with the ailment that it has is considered a treifa. Lasuya mai, what is it coming to be? Marbra. So come on, lasuya shav shmaitza. The seven extra psulim that are on Membeis Amud Beis, and we'll just run through them very quickly to refresh our memories, and we'll just look at them very quickly. What does it say over here? You have. They're mentioned first on Membeis Amud Aleph, but listed on Membeis Amud Beis. So Bukadatu the Shaf Miduchte, if the hip, the socket of the thigh into the hip bone, if it gets dislodged, and then you have Loksa B'chol Yachas, or Nitlat or Nika Batchil, Atchol, or Simanim Shenedal Dlubaruban, Nekwat Salam Eikara, Golgoyla Shenech Basabaruba, Basra Chayfa Esrei Vakeres Barubai. So those are the Shav Shemaitza. So those are added in by the Zdak Klal Lasuye. Lasuye Shav Shemaitza. The Vei Yosef Rishba was a hunter. The household of Yosef Rishba, what they would do is Machu Begida. they would begin nasha. They would smash the animal's gida nasha, which would lead to the death of the animal. The kotli, the animal died. Now that's not listed as one of the treifos. So also the Kamed Rabbi Ben Meseir, Amalahu, Vechila Oizev al treifos. Yes, you think you could add to the treifos because you figured out another way that the animal would be suffering from an ailment that it would die? No. Ein loch ela ma shemanu chacham. The Gemara is going to ask, so Lamaisa will die. So how do you deal with that? Rav Papa bar Abba Rishba, he was also a hunter. Mochu b'chulya the kotli. When they would shoot an arrow, the hunters would shoot the arrow that should penetrate the cavity of the body right above the chulya, not damaging the chulya because then you're going to have a treifa, but it would go right into the cavity of the body of the body of the animal, and that would kill it. So maybe that's also a treifa. Also, Kamed Rabbi Amalu v'chil ha'isval treifa zeish ein lach ela ma shemanu chacham. Fake Gemara, but v'haka chazina on the kamesa. L'maisa, you see they died. If they would treat it with medicine, it would survive. Treivas, the animals cannot survive at all, based on those days of medicine. Nowadays, you can sew up the animal, right? If the meat got cut open. So therefore, since there was no known remedy for those conditions, that's why they're considered treivas. But these, even in the times of the Gemara, there was a remedy for those conditions. They look sheris. So these are the animals that are sheris. Bebehema, nikva gargeres, oisheniskad, oishenisdika, at kavate chaser. How much of the gargeres has to be missing in order for it to be treva? I should really explain. Nistika means it was slit lengthwise. So we learned if it's slit lengthwise, as long as it's connected a little bit at the top and a little bit at the bottom, being that it's stretched out, the slit in the kana will sort of seal itself. So kama ad kama techaser. So if I ask you a question, ad kama techaser, what is the maximum amount of chasharon you can have that it will still be kosher? Because we're talking about the eluk sheris. If it was talking about eluk trevis, it would say kama teheba v'yiposo. So here we're asking how much could the chasharon be, and it will still be kosher. Rab Shimon ben Gamliel ad ki iser italki. So I would say ad ki iser italki, it will not be a treifa. If it's more than the iser italki, it will be a treifa. The Gemara is going to have a discussion: is it ad b'chlal or not? So ad ki iser italki, and even if the hole is the size of an iser italki, it's going to be kosher still. Or no, ad v'lo b'chlal. Up until that point, but once it's ki iser italki, it's already going to be a treifa. What if a piece of the skull bone was literally cut open, but the krum shel mayach remained intact, or nikav alev, but v'loy leves chaloloi, or nishbara shedra, but v'loy nifsak hachut shelo, but the spinal cord is intact, and nitla hakaved, if the liver was taken out, v'nishtayir himena kazayis, or hemptis ubeis hakoisos shenikvu zeh l'toich zeh. So the whole wasn't to the outside, it's an internal hole. Or nitlat choil, if the spleen was totally removed. Oi nitlu hakloyos, if the kidneys were taken out. Now that's already going to be a very big shaila, because can a human survive without kidneys? Absolutely not, right? Yet we're saying it's not a treifa. How do we understand that? They didn't have dialysis in those days. So he has a gewaltige study over here that I was going to read to you. There was of great interest then, is a study that was recently performed in the Netherlands. I must put it up here. In the Netherlands, where a number of cows had their kidneys surgically removed and were subsequently monitored. Scientists continuously recorded the vital body functions for a full week and found to their surprise that the cows showed no signs of illness or irritability, with the sole exception of a loss of appetite, which isn't a life-threatening condition. To quote from the actual study entitled Further Studies on the Effect of Total Nephrectomy in the Bovine by C. Watts and J.R. Campbell of the University of Glasgow Veterinary School. I'm telling you, these guys, these experiments they make, this is what we're paying for this type of research. Like, it's crazy. In the present paper, a further group of bullocks undergoing bilateral nephrectomy, means both the kidneys were taken out, was more extensively studied than the previous group. A careful assessment of their clinical condition and food and water intake was made, and a more complete picture of biochemical changes was obtained by detailed analysis of blood, saliva, rumen fluid, and feces. Clinical observations. None of the bullocks showed loss or increase of weight over their experimental period. In general, they were bright and of normal demeanor up to 5 days after the operation, but then became slightly dull, although this was not marked even at the time of slaughter at the end of 7 days. The food and water intake dropped immediately after the operation to about 1/3 of pre-operation quantity, and thereafter diminished still further, so that at the end of the experimental period, the animals were almost completely anorexic and were drinking not more than half a gallon of water per day. No change was noted. And he goes on to say, so it must be that they saw that in one of their stomachs it took over that function to purify the blood. So
Yeah, but it only lasted for a week.
Side of anorexic.
no, they killed him. They didn't wait to see what would happen.
They just,
But whatever you see, a trafer means it's going to die right away, right? So he brings down over
Say
here.
that it could be up to a year.
Reb Moshe Wolfson Shlita often relates how the Chassam Sofer's son once asked his father a difficult question in Jewish philosophy. The Chassam Sofer thought for a minute, but did not answer him. A week later, the Chassam Sofer called him over and explained the issue completely, totally diffusing the question. He then added to his son's surprise that he had his answer in mind all along and purposefully withheld it for a week to teach his son something even more important, to learn to live with the question. Our Messiah is solid, and we can be confident enough to remain with an I don't know to a particular detail as we wait to be enlightened. So Avada, the Gemara knows what it's talking about, the Mishnah knows what it's talking about, but science didn't realize that an animal could live. How long exactly, we don't know, but whatever the case is, it doesn't function like we do. We couldn't survive for a day without our kidneys. By a rumen animal, which is an animal with 4 stomachs that chooses cuds, there's obviously processes in their stomach that take over the function of the kidneys. So it's an eye-opener.
I showed that some safer to IMC.
So Zog to Gemara weiter. So that's the kidneys. We're in the middle of the Mishnah. Nitla lechi atachton, if its lower jaw was taken, but not the meat, just a bone. Nitla ha'em shalah, if the uterus is taken out, or v'charusim de shemayim, meaning its lungs hardened, but not machmas, a scare from a noise that was made by a person, rather a noise that came naturally like thunder, or hagaluda, or if it's missing all the skin, Reb Meir machshav v'cham poislam. Idmar b'yech nomar, elu treifes dafka. Now this whole machlokes is really going to be about one particular type of psul, and the question is it included in the elu treifes, in the zak klal of the elu treifes or not? If you hold elu treifes is dafka, but nothing else, then you'll exclude the question that we're going to talk about from treifes, and it'll be included in the elu ksheres. But it says elu ksheres too. It must be the elu ksheres is lav dafka. They're more kosher than just the ones on the list. So is the elu treifes dafka, meaning the item that we're going to discuss is going to be mutter, or is the elu ksheres dafka, and therefore the item that we're going to discuss is going to be also included in the zeh lasuyeh.
What's missing from here is the Zeh Klal in this mission.
Correct. So Zok Tamar Itmar Rabbi Yochanan Amar Elu Treifes Dafka. It means he's going to hold the kula. Rabbi Shimon Lakish Amar Elu Ksheres Dafka, which is lechumra. But Ma'akamivically, so what exactly is the case that they're arguing about? But Rab Masna, Damar Masna, Haibuka Da'atma Deshaf Biduchte. If the ball of the socket and ball joint of the hip, the ball got dislodged, it's a treifa. Rabbi Yochanan holds us not. He argued Rabbi Masna. Rabbi Yochanan Amar Elu Treifes Dafka, Tanu Treifes. So it says treifes. V'tana zaklal, and it says zaklal. Now Rabbi Yochanan was afraid that you might mistakenly think that the zaklal includes Rabbi Masna's halacha in addition to the Shev Shmaitza of Bukadat Medeshaf Medochte. Someone might mistakenly include it in the zaklal. So therefore, my time, why would you mistakenly include it in the zaklal? The domyal and the tula, it's like something was removed, and there's many items that the Mishnah discusses. If it's removed from the animal becomes a treifa. So therefore, Tana elu treifas bedavke elu hani hu de treifa had Rav Masna kshera. But Rav Shimon ben Lakish said the other way. Elu kshera is davke. Tana treifas the Tana zaklal. The chazad Rav Masna the lo yosem zaklal. He saw that Rav Masna's halacha bukadav medushav meducha would not be included in the zaklal. Why not? My timer, because lavul and tkuvidam, it's not doimit to something that got punctured. V'olek psukadamya, and it's not doimit to something like a cut. And it's not like the Tuli, unlike Rabbi Yochanan's perspective, Rish Lakish also wouldn't be included in the Tule, and Rashi says why? The Alav the Tule Lagamri, it's not completely removed, it's just dislodged. So therefore, you would not know that it's Osir. Tana Elu Ksheir is Hanu Duksheira, Hadamasta Treva, and Elu Trevis is Agav, the Lashon of Elu Ksheir. They wanted to parallel the Lashon. But really, Elu Ksheir is Davka, Elu Trevis is Lav Davka. Guva Amar Basna. Habukadak with the shop with Duktei Trefa. For Rav Amar Kshera. The Ifsik Nive, but if the tendons tore and the art scroll brings down, either there's a tendon right in the socket that holds the ball, or there's tendons all around the whole joint that holds it together, Trefa. The Ifsik Nami is Kshera, Adam is Achel is Akuli. Even if the tendons are torn, it'll still be kosher unless it's rotting out over there. At Kamatei Chaser. Amaziri, you guys don't know what an Isser is. Because nowadays we don't even have that coin anymore. So I'm going to do you a favor. Shirei b'dinra kordina. You're more familiar with the korduni dinner. That would be the size of hole that is the maximum size in a kohen. And v'avaka pshita is a trusi. It's like a small pshita, which is I guess another coin that we're familiar with. You could find them amongst the pennies of Pumbedisa. Reb Chana Psura was a money exchanger, but he didn't own his own business. He worked for somebody. So he was operating this money exchange store on behalf of the owner. And Bar Nafcha came to him. And he asked me, he was saying over a story. He came to me and he asked me for a dinner kordina. Why did he want that? L'shari be trefasa, because he wanted to use it to check if things were trefa. So I wanted to stand up for him. He was a choshev adayin who came to me so quickly. I wanted to stand up for him. He didn't let me stand up for him. You continue your work. Don't stop for a second. Don't show me any type of respect. You're on the job now. You know what? If a Baal Umnis is in the middle of working, he's not allowed to stop because he has to show any Talmid Chachamim respect. Now Rashi takes it a step further. Rashi says, if you work for somebody, and he was working for somebody as a cashier, and the way you used to pay the cashier in those days, they paid him on commission. They didn't pay him by the hour. He's got to be 100% focused on his job. You ever went to a show and all the people who operate booths are like looking at you, trying to get your attention, but not jumping in front of you? It's a very uncomfortable feeling because you're like a hooker almost, trying to get someone's attention, and you can't actually reach out to them, right? So that's exactly what you have to do. You have to be attracting people without getting too aggressive. If you have a umnus that you have, don't be busy with the umnus. You got to be focused on your job. You got to be totally focused. Shmuel told me he was once driving Revelia, and he said, and I never saw this myself, but at the entrance to the Holland Tunnel, there'd be a lot of hookers lined up. I never saw that. I've seen them in South Brooklyn. Anyway, so I'm waiting to get into the Holland Tunnel. Traffic moves very slowly, inching in, and the hooker starts gesturing to Revelia, who's sitting in the passenger seat. So Revelia said, "Every defense does you realize." So I told him earlier, was reveal, nicht mehr geweich. Sagt Gemara weiter. Is that true? I'll show you that people who are working are supposed to stop what they're doing to welcome the guests that are coming from all over Eretz Yisrael to Yerushalayim to bring Bikurim. They welcome them. You came from Eilat. We're so happy that you're here. You want to make them feel welcome. Only for the Mevi Bikurim, but even for a Talmid Chacham, they're not allowed to pause from the work that they're doing. You see how chashuv it is to do the mitzvah Bikurim b'shaita that we make a big deal over everyone who comes. Who said it's because it's a mitzvah b'shaiton? Maybe the reason why we're told to greet the people is not to turn them off. If everyone gives them a cold shoulder when they come to Yerushalayim and they're not celebrated as heroes, then the next time they're not going to come. So you don't have a ride from here. But a kalpanim, you don't stand up for Talmid Chachamim when you're busy on the job. Amar Nachman, Kisela has the same halach of Kiyasim Misela. So what did I say before? I said that until when is it kosher? Until an Isser, which would be mashma, and the Isser would be kosher. More than an Isser, it won't be. But now Rav Nachman is saying no. Even if it was the size of an Isser, that would be treif already. That crosses the line. Or Kaselas, Kayesami Kasela, those that are the Shir Vasela, the Sela itself is like Yosem Kasela, so your makbid, so it's Aden V'loy Ad B'chlal. It's kosher Ad K'Isser V'loy Ad B'chlal, or K'Isser K'Yesami Isser. Al Kasev Rav Nachman Ad V'loy Ad B'chlal. Esfei. Esfei the Rav Nachman. We have a problem with that. Because it says, Akoil Chevel HaYoytzim Namita. In Mesechus Caleb, the Mishnah discusses what's part of the bed that will become Tamei B'Magu B'Masa, and what's not part of the bed. So they used to use two boards for the sides of the bed, and then the two boards for the headboard and footboard, and then they would string across back and forth that would create the mattress holder. Right? It was basically stretched strings. Now, they used to have a long string at the end that had a little string sticking out. Right? So before they trimmed it, up until 5 tvachim it's tar. You know why? Because that's excess. It's not part of the bed. It's not going to be used for anything. It's going to be cut off. So therefore, it's going to be tar. But if it's more than 5, there it's tummy. You know why? Because someone's going to say, hey, this is a perfect string to tie my sheep to the bed before Pesach. So they're going to leave that string there. So my love, chamisha kilamata. It says at chamisha tvachim, it's tar. So it's mashma chamisha itself is tar. If it's a little bit more than chamisha, then it will be tummy. So you see, ad va'ad b'chlal. Chamisha kilamayla. Tashma. Now for the next series of kashas, I don't know what to have in each step, because once we already said loy chamisha kilamayla, you can apply the same teretz to the next 5 kashas the Gemara is going to ask. I'm sure there's a reason why in each case the Gemara thought this case is different. I just don't know what it is.
I don't know how, I mean, like, it didn't say chamisha, it says al chamisha.
So maybe that's why, I don't know. So Zok Gemara, mehever asara, tame. My love, asara klamata. And it will be tame. Lo asara klamayla, and it will be tar. Because once it's more than 10, you're going to cut it off and use it for something else. You're not going to leave it as part of the bed. Tashma, hadak and shabach l'cheres. It says in Mesechus Kalim, if you have, because it's almost 6:40. It is 6:40. Oh. I try to be finished by 6:40 because Dave Zolti likes to leave at 6:40 to come here, but he's not on today. So I'm rushing because of a matter of habit. Yeah, that's really what it is. But now I see Dave leaves early, so if I'm able to finish, I try. But I do go to 6:50. No problem. Let's say you had a small klicheres and it broke. So when you learn Mesechus Kalim, it's a very fascinating limud. You know why? Because you realize that they didn't throw anything out. We live in a disposable generation. You use up your ink on your big pen, you throw it out, you buy a new one. I remember my Rebbe used to always say, you think a big pen is cheaper than a Parker pen. Don't forget, a Parker pen is cheaper. Why? Because you can use it for 10 years and you refill it. Much ain't a big pen, every time you use it, you throw it out. So a year's worth of big pens costs more than a year worth of Parker pens. I'm not sure how much the refill cost. But that's what he used to tell us. So in Maseches Kelim, you see there's nothing that they threw out. Whatever was possible to repurpose, they repurposed it. I was a nightmare in my family after I learned Maseches Kelim because I didn't let anybody throw anything out. Look, we can still use it as this, we can still use it as that. So Glicheres breaks, even if it's a shard left over, you could still use it. And it's still a keli. Hain, the kakar is saying, what if the top broke but the bottom is still standing, so it's still a small receptacle? Or what if the bottom is totally broken, part of the wall is there, but the wall, you could sit it down, that it'll actually be able to contain something, it would still be considered tomei, shiuran, bichdei, sichas koton, the viad loik. If there's enough to put in a tiny little bit of oil that you would be able to use if you were wanting to smear your baby with oil, so you'd have a little receptacle to put the oil in while you're smearing it, that is big enough of a receptacle to be machshir keli that originally was up to a loig. Once the keli is bigger than the loig, so then of course a tiny little remain would not be anything. But if it started that it was only a small keli to begin with, then even if it's only shiur b'tesichas cotton remaining, it would still be a good keli. But ad loig. So my love, loig kilamata. So if it's the shiur of a loig, you would say lechumra that it would still be tamei even though a little piece was left. So akmaloi look kilamayla ad v'lad b'chal. Tashma mi look vatsa b'revius. My love look kilamata loy saw kilamayla. So again, it's the same havim in the maskana. I'm not sure why. So as these individual kelim are getting bigger and bigger, the amount of remaining keli, in order for it to retain its din tumah, also gets bigger and bigger. So Tashma misavat sasaim bechatzi loik. My love sasaim kalamata loy sasaim kalamayla. Frank Gemara, but we got a problem. But Tanya lug kilamata, saw kilamata, sasaim kalamata. So you see ad viad bechlal, it blasts right out of the water the whole svar of Rabbi Nachman, because you see here ad viad bechlal, even the higher keli is part of it. So no, hasam l'chumra. There's l'chumra, because by saying lugas kalamata means it'll still retain its tumah with a smaller remain. So it teaches a whole new halacha that when Rabbi Nachman said ad viad bechlal, that's only if it would be l'chumra. In our case, it's l'chumra. A smaller coin opening would also make a treifa. But when it comes time to going l'kula, then you don't say ad v'ad. You go l'chumra between ad v'ad b'chlal and ad v'ad b'chlal. You take on whatever would be the chumra. Damar b'vo amar b'yochino kol shi'urei chachamim is always lahachmir, except one thing. Chutz mikegris shel gesamim. We know that if a woman sees a kesem that's the size of a gris, you don't have to worry about it. It has to be gris ve'oid. It has to be a little bit more than the size of a gris, which we say is a dime. Only then you have to worry about it. So there it's lahakel, and that's because the whole din of ksamim is a chumra ba'alma, because there's no argasha there, and therefore they were only machmer if it's kegris v'oid. They kadami, and I'll prove it to you that you go l'chumra, because it says the katani alodahi chamisha is kalamayla. If the string is 5 exactly, then it's kalamayla, and it'll be tamei, because we'll say it's a string that's part of the bed. But asar kalamata. But if it's 10, it's kalamata. That's lakula again. So you see, asar kalamata is l'chumra. So when it's l'chumra, you say chamish is kalamayla. And when it's l'chumra, you'll say asar is kalamata. If the string is 10, we'll say it's like it's a little bit less than 10, and therefore it's still in the zone that is part of the bed, and it will be mitama. Okay, Baruch Hashem, we're going to finish Daf Nun Dalet. Tomorrow we will learn Daf Nun Hey.
So now you understand why the Gemara went through these Tashimas, because they're all connected.
I understand, but why would I think one is different? If the first one wasn't a raya,